G'day to all you blokes and shields out there, this is Gareth Price, the Sinister Siblings. Now you may recall a long time ago I made this review and correction of a fan war video made by One Fish Mob. And I will admit I made a lot of mistakes and got pretty pissed off at some point in time. Well, at some points in time. I will admit to my mistakes and the fact that I didn't know that neither of these species, that neither the Xenomorphs or the Flood knew anything about each other. Exasperately, of course. I'm going to try and keep as calm as I can in this video, responding towards some information that could have helped understand the video a little better. One Fish Mob has been trying to clarify to me a few things, and I am very sorry for how I acted in that video. I think I may have eaten a bowl of Californium-291. I am very sorry about that. That will explain some of my anger issues. I've got to stop eating radioactive materials. Oh well. So over the last few weeks, I've been watching some videos by this YouTuber named Alien Theory. And this latest one, called the Xenomorph Embryo Implantation Process Explained, is a very interesting one in the fact that it has brought to light some pretty interesting aspects that could have further developed research in that fan war. Now I'm going to try and keep this as calm as possible. And One Fish Mob, if you're watching, I hope we can come to a reasonable agreement, okay? Well, I hope you can understand what I'm talking about. We'll let it just go through, shall we? Let's go.
The implantation of a xenomorph embryo begins, of course, with the egg, which is also known as the ovomorph, which harbors the facehugger. Although the facehugger is the first active being in the process of fulfilling the alien life cycle, it is believed that the ovomorph itself is sentient, playing its part in the progression of the alien species far beyond simply being a lifeless vessel from which the facehugger emerges. However, the ovomorph's relationship with its ecosystem may prove to be more complex, possessing its own central nervous system at the base, linked to a network of thermo and pressure-sensitive veins that run across the outer surface, which allow the egg to sense when a host is detected close by, working through a symbiotic relationship with the facehugger inside, signaling the opportune moment to attack the host once opened.
Here's the first interesting part about this that I want to bring forth. The fact that it sends signals towards a host. Now, I don't think I ever saw it in the actual fan war video, but flood infection forms wouldn't be considered a viable host as it is too small for the implantation process and incubation process of a xenomorph embryo to be considerable, which means that an infection form could sneak by all the eggs, or the Othermore or something like that? I forgot. Othermore, whatever it is, I automatically forgot the name.
As displayed in Aliens, the ovomorphs themselves seem to initially share a hive mind with the alien queen, insofar as to take orders directly from the queen, as seen with Ripley's initial confrontation against her. The two seem to share an unspoken peace agreement to allow Ripley to leave the hive and in turn not wage any destruction on the xenomorphs. Though of course an egg would end up opening, breaking this short-lived peace. Once a host is detected, the ovomorph transfers its remaining bioelectrical potential to the facehugger, essentially breaking the symbiotic relationship and resulting in the death of the egg, so that the full potential of the facehugger can be realized. And immediately prior to the facehugger's release, the top of the egg splits open in 4 sections that peel back like the petals of a flower, allowing the facehugger to leap out and attach itself to the host. The facehugger will then leap towards the host's face and immediately wrap its tail around their neck and its digits around their skull. Once securely in place, the facehugger rapidly renders the host unconscious using a cyanose-based paralytic chemical administered simply through skin contact.
Here's another interesting point there. That, compound rendering the host unconscious would not work on a flood form, as it is the skin is sort of malformed and mutated. God damn it, why am I so sweaty? Sorry. Ignore that part. But, yeah, the mutations in the skin and flesh, thanks to it being, flood infected and all that, would render anything that is capable of, how could I say, basically rendering unconscious or physically impaired and all sorts would be ineffective. I'm trying to keep as calm as possible, okay?
Once a facehugger is securely attached to its host, it inserts its proboscis down the victim's throat, this proboscis being, of course, key to the embryo implantation process. Perhaps by the need to implant as soon as possible, and as an instinct to progress the species, this fleshy protrudence can be seen emerging from the facehugger moments before attachment to a host. As the Nostromo's science officer Ash observes when monitoring Kane's condition after his attack, the facehugger is able to feed the host oxygen. Through the proboscis, the facehugger both supplies the host with suitable atmosphere for breathing to keep them alive long enough to endure the process, and also implants the beginnings of a xenomorph embryo in their esophagus, a process that takes several hours. The gestation of the xenomorph embryo at this stage has been a subject of debate as to whether the facehugger feeds all the necessary elements such as the seed and egg of the creature itself, simply using the host as a vessel to harbor the xenomorph and gather the necessary nutrients until birth takes place.
Yeah. I'm looking at the diagram now. It actually shows an implanted egg and the seed in order for the egg to start developing into the embryo. That almost completely debunks the fact that the xenomorph is made of cancerous cells. I'm sure it may need the cancerous cells and other nutrients inside the host in order to make it into a full embryo, but we'll get to that later as he explains it.
To be sure, a DNA bond between xenomorph and host undoubtedly takes place to a certain degree, and as proven in various cases, the adult-grown xenomorph takes on many traits of its host.
Here's an interesting fact here. Here's one of the main reasons why it cannot do that with the Flood. The Flood does not make any DNA connections with its host. It uses its biological DNA to instantly convert and take over the DNA strain of its host or any other foreign object inside the host. So that means if that embryo was to start making a DNA link with a Flood host, that link would automatically turn into a bridge for the Flood to, deconstruct and conform it into Flood biomass. I hope this microphone's working.
Remain mysterious, as the growth of the xenomorph creature far differs from our own procreation as humans. The most commonly held belief, though, is that the facehugger deposits a tumor inside the host's chest cavity, consisting of specifically tailored cancers that bring about a restructuring of the host's cells.
Okay.
Essentially, the facehugger inserts a malignant growth that causes the host's body to assemble the chest burster at a cellular level from its own biological material.
There's another thing there. Constructing the embryo with its own biological material onto a cellular level. Okay, that would not work with a Flood host, as soon as doing that the Flood would automatically start taking over the embryo's biological form. So instead of it taking over, traits of the Flood, as soon as it matures or basically is, harvested and born immediately, hatches out of the host, I do not know which way I was trying to go with that one there. It would automatically start taking on Flood traits, which would either stay dormant until maturity or instantly take over the xenomorph's form.
LaSalle Bionational, a biological research and development corporation within the extended universe, has researched this aspect and has outlined the following. Once the embryonic alien, commonly known as a chest burster, has been implanted within the host organism, a remarkable system of chemical restructuring takes place. The gestating alien absorbs organic material from the host, breaking it down at a molecular level and forming new compounds. All organic molecules are based on long-chain hydrocarbons bearing different activating groups. The carbon units are disassociated from their existing compounds and are then recombined into crystal lactites, which are used in the formation of the creature's hard bodily structures. The freed H-positive ions are combined with surplus sulfate and nitrate groups to form the...
Here's another interesting fact here. I don't know if its compound of being able to break down biological matter into a cellular level, it works with the Flood's ability towards... Actually, now that I think about it... Oh, I see. It could successfully harvest it, but the xenomorph embryo wouldn't actually sustain itself inside the host, as it is both of them are practically practically do the exact same thing. The xenomorph harvests a host and uses it to incubate the embryo and all that, while the flood will will conform and restructure the DNA right down to a sub-molecular level. Sorry, microcellular level? That's it, microcellular level. Into its own formation. The fact of the matter is, if you had them both trying to do the same thing, the embryo, if it ever reached full maturity inside before hatching, the conflicting DNAs would actually tear the embryo apart. Of course. The two DNAs conflicting against each other inside the embryo as it's trying to restructure itself to take the host's traits would actually rip itself apart.
Powerful acidic compounds which have previously been regarded as the alien's blood, although our research has proved this term to be unhelpful. Given the results of the black goo's contact directly with humans, and xenomorphs being an offshoot of the chemical, a potent harnessing of the mutation and
Okay, so one fish mob stated the fact that the black goo was an exact... the xenomorphs are made entirely of that black goo. That's not true. The xenomorphs are made from a series of human errors relating towards that black goo. First off, you have the exposure of the black goo towards one of the crew members in Prometheus, who then has higher sexual arousal towards one of the other crew members. I don't know their names, so I forgot half of Prometheus almost instantaneously. So it's been a while since I last saw Prometheus, which causes that one to be impregnated with a first generation xenomorph facehugger, which grows to exponential sizes, which then impregnates one of the engineers, which then creates the Deacon, which then goes on towards a whole bunch of other things. So the fact of the matter is, the xenomorphs are indirectly related to the black goo, but it's through a series of multitude events. You can't exactly directly relate them to the black goo. They're sort of like, how could I say, a byproduct of a byproduct of a byproduct of the infection. That's exactly it. Man, that would be a lot to sink in one information process, wouldn't it? Lucky for me, I have multiple minds. Each one of them has to switch places in order for the understanding of different forms of information, which is why I can understand a lot about basic and advanced of nuclear engineering, medical science, physics, chemical understanding, and other stuff like that. Holy shit, I'm speaking too fast again. Sorry.
Missionary abilities wouldn't be out of the question for the xenomorphs. For this gestation to take place and to finally result in the newly born alien bursting from its host's chest, usually a period of 24 hours is required.
That is actually an average timeline of that. The quickest time is about 4 to 8 hours, I'd say. Just an estimation on it. It's been a long time since I've last seen the alien movies. Longest time was actually 2 days, I think. Or maybe in between a day and 2 days, with Alien Resurrection. We can't count Alien vs. Predator as any sort of understanding towards that one there, because that just conflicts with its own plot. Well, it actually conflicts with the plot of the original Alien series, and Prometheus, and now this Alien Covenant. If you try and put all them in perspective again, all of them in perspective with each other, there is no subliminal plot. Sorry. I'm going to switch mindsets again. No, basically I had to rewind my own information there. You can't actually submit that into a flowing plot, as it is Prometheus. Prometheus could act as a prequel towards Alien, but Alien Covenant in itself, before Alien, that kind of segments itself into a different area completely. I can understand that one there at all. Alien vs. Predator kind of ruins the whole plot of Prometheus towards the end of the Alien series, because it says that the aliens have been around for thousands of years. Okay. Whereas Prometheus shows that the goo is actually indirectly related as a byproduct of a byproduct. You know what I'm getting at, don't you? Well, what I'm trying to get at. I may be overcomplicating that a lot. I am very sorry about that. But the fact of the matter is that Prometheus could directly relate itself towards the original Alien series. I don't know about Alien Covenant until I see that, but the Alien vs. Predator series, that's on a different plot line entirely. I'm sorry, I feel like it's more of a spin-off plot. you can't actually relate the two plots together. That sort of does not make sense. And the fact you have the predators and all that, which, gee, I think you can place and relate them to the Alien vs Predator plot, which is not directly connected to the Alien plot. Okay, so that's there. Alien Covenant's in the middle. We don't know if that's going to be that way or that way. It could be a spin-off. It could be directly related and all that. Alien 5, I don't think is going to exist. Well, it's probable that it won't exist. It could, but it could not. I don't know. It all depends whether or not Aliens Colonial Marines, which is the Aliens video game, could be directly related towards the plot of the Alien series as well. I don't know. So then you have people in the comments who are actually arguing against me in one Fish Mob's video, saying that the Xenomorphs have been around for millions of years. No, the product used to create the infection process towards, exposed DNA, which then reforms towards the first generation facehugger, which then reforms towards the Deacon, which then forms toward that's been around for millions of years. We can't compare Alien vs Predator's plot, because that does not make sense towards the main plot at all. Because then that kind of conflicts towards Prometheus's origin and all that towards the Alien series, which would mean that the Xenomorphs themselves have only been around for a few hundred years. The Flood themselves have actually been around for about 100,000 years, maybe longer than that. Who knows? They're a failed revival experiment made by the precursors, which are meant to be the very first alien beings in the universe. Okay, I need to slow myself down now. But then you have the incubation process. Okay, I'm finally speaking again, sorry. Incubation process puts towards the fact all this one here, which is, on average about 18 hours to a day's time. That's what I'm going to put as an average time limit, considering the fact you have the shortest and the longest time as well, being just under 12 hours and just over 36 hours. Those are the best prospects I can get for shortest and longest times. The flood infection process itself, it commences the flood infection process in 0.025 seconds and completes the whole process in 3 to 5 seconds entirely. One fish mob basically accelerated the Xenomorph's incubation process while making the flood's infection process impossible. Xenomorph incubation process in his fan war video was accelerated from an average of 18 to 24 hours, right down to a minimum of 2.25 seconds. 2.27 seconds. I actually had to keep slow motion count of that, interestingly enough, right down to the milliseconds. And for that incubation time is physically impossible for a Xenomorph. I'm still trying to be calm, one fish mob. I'm not trying to basically be your complete enemy. I'm just trying to put reason and understanding towards your video and other stuff like that. Sorry.
In some depictions, this process is either accelerated or elongated depending on the host itself and the type of facehugger. Excerpts from the confidential paper titled Theory of Alien Propagation by Dr. Waitslaw Orona, civilian advisor to the Colonial Marines, states that the actual incubation period is relatively short, a matter of days or even hours.
There you
Much
go.
like the egg before it, the facehugger also dies once it has successfully impregnated the host. Whether or not a host is aware of the gestating xenomorph inside their chest varies, though more often than not they're left with no memory of the initial facehugger attack. Perhaps due to the chemicals transmitted through the facehugger that renders them unconscious, leaving them with vague memories or dreams about the experience. As Kane notes, he remembers a terrible dream about smothering, but seems to have no idea or suspicions that he has an alien inside of him. Opposite to that, Ripley, when impregnated with the alien queen, has no memory of the facehugger itself, though it did take place while she was in cryosleep, but progressively experiences horrible chest pains and sickness, until finally she discovers the embryo that she herself is carrying.
Yeah.
With that in mind, if a host is aware of an alien embryo inside their chest, do you think they'd be able to find a way to remove it in time to survive?
Well, actually, it could be possible to remove an alien embryo inside someone if they're aware of it. If you put them to cryosleep, then carefully remove the embryo and the fetus surrounding it, which actually in Alien Colonial Marines wraps around the whole organs. If you're able to remove the fetus before the embryo while they're in cryosleep or operational status, you could successfully save someone's life. It could take a process of about 2, maybe 3 hours, depending on the amount of people and the amount of technology you have on board a certain area. But yeah, it is possible to remove an alien incubating inside you. Sorry about that. I'm tearing myself apart now. Got a lot of loose skin on me. But yeah, xenomorph harvesting incubation is possible to stop it. There are people, if you have severe medical conditions, there's the guy who took a long time in Alien Resurrection. He had severe, don't know what sort of medical condition it was, but it prolonged it thanks to that medical condition. If you have one severe enough, like, a major cancer or major condition, any other medical condition, like a physical impairment, internal physical impairment, it could be possible that a xenomorph cannot incubate inside someone who is, physically, mentally, or internally impaired to a certain degree.
And would you be interested in a video on that theory? Comment below and let me know. And as always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. That's always appreciated. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, you can subscribe to my channel and always be up to date with my latest theories and explanations. If there's a topic you'd like to see covered here, please by all means comment below with your suggestions. And in the meantime, you can also follow Alien_Theory on Twitter and Alien Theory YT on Facebook for more. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, this is Alien Theory.
Yep. So yeah, there you go. Oh, the guy in Alien Resurrection was Purvis. Okay. Wow, that's a strange name. Yeah, put all that information in together there. A xenomorph cannot physically incubate inside a flood form. Sorry to say that, one fish mob. It was a good video. Alright, I admit that I may have eaten some radioactive materials before making that review and correction video. I'm very sorry about that. But research, and development, thanks to Alien Theory, has sort of made me understand that a xenomorph embryo cannot physically incubate and then hatch from a flood form, as it is the DNAs cross-referencing each other would actually rip the embryo apart. And the fact that if flood goes through full conversion process of the host that it has taken over, the vessel is taken over, the head itself would just become a lump of biomass. Alright, it would actually have the throat sealed off towards the most part there, which means that a facehugger itself would be ineffective in the process of implanting the embryo, which is, it's not cancerous cells, it's just one giant tumor. Interesting. But there you go, that's the best I can aspect towards most of the agreements and all that I've done, and standings towards that in itself. And one fish while you're watching this, I hope we have come to a full agreement. With that being said and done, I'll see everyone another time. Cheery.